Buffalo, hanging on by the skin of their chinny chin chin to beat the Bucs 24-18, the final. If you bet on Tampa, you won with the spread. Allen at 324 yards passing was 31 of 40. So the Bills are at 5-3. Gabe Davis had a bunch of catches and had a touchdown for Buffalo. And the rookie tight end is Dalton Kincaid getting his tires pumped by Kirk Herbstreit there as he scored his first touchdown. But the better story to start, we'll get to Buffalo, but the better story is in the losing locker room. So that is where we will begin this discussion. The question, how are things going for Baker Mayfield's redemption tour in Tampa? How's that going? So my thoughts, leopard, bird dogging, and goodwill hunting. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a nice big stomach ache is what we're going to make, because I got to think that's what the Buccaneer fan has, watching Baker Mayfield. They're dealing with that. They need a remedy. All right, now, this was for Baker Mayfield. I put it in the box of blah, the blah box. It was a blah performance, uninspiring. Baker Mayfield's numbers were not terrible. All right. In fact, I would argue they were better than he actually played. Mayfield ended up completing around 60% of his passes. He averaged just 5.6 yards per pass, which ain't good at all. 7 is average. That is a yard and a half almost below average. Couple of touchdowns, passer rating slightly above 90. But here's the other thing. The pace of play. If you're watching this game, Tampa was down. You know what I'm about to bring up. Tampa was down by a couple scores in the fourth quarter. And there was no sense of urgency late in the game. There was no, we got to pick up the pace, rat-a-tat-tat. You're down 2 scores, and Baker Mayfield is lollygagging around like he's trying to milk the clock, running the play clock down. Just to prove that point, the touchdown drive for Tampa was a 17-play, 86-yard drive that took over 7 minutes off the game clock. Now, they were assisted by a couple of bonehead penalties by a poorly coached Buffalo Bills team as they continued to give the Bucs new life. But the fact that Tampa continued to run the play clock down with less than 5 seconds, sometimes all the way down to 1 second, and it seemed like they were more worried about covering the point spread than they were about winning the game outright. And as somebody that took Tampa Bay, I'm grateful for that, but I think you're supposed to try to win the game. When you peel back the curtain, though, Baker Mayfield, we are now 7+ weeks into the NFL season for the Bucs. Week 8 now. And Baker Mayfield is as advertised. And he's the same stumble bum he's always been. There's a problem with his thingamajig. He's no different than he was in Cleveland or Carolina or with the Rams. After a brief uptick to begin the season, the Bucs, let's just say they are no longer at home with Baker. And Mayfield is a leopard. And we all learned when we were little kids that leopards cannot change their spots. And the other problem here for Mayfield after that nice start, water seeks its own level, and his level is not very high. Not very high. And so things have evened out. Now, turning the page on that, page 2 here, headline from the Bills locker room. What did you take away from Josh Allen's performance as he had 2 passing touchdowns and a running touchdown? So he's getting a lot of the glory, and there's people who are massaging him, giving him a shoulder rub. Now, the Bills Mafia, we have guys that love this show that are part of Bills Mafia. They tickle his toes anyway. They don't need him to play well. If he plays well, that's great. If he doesn't play well, they just have somebody to blame. It's never his fault. He never has a bad throw. Josh Allen never makes a mistake. It's somebody else's fault. Blame the offensive coordinator, blame the head coach, blame the offensive line. Usual quarterback sycophants. But in this game, being fair and neutral, an objective party. I am Switzerland. Okay, I'm Switzerland. This was a mixed bag performance. I'm not going to be one of those fanboys that genuflex to Josh Allen. He was good for a period of time in this game, but overall it was a mixed bag, and here's why. In the second half, piecemeal. The object of the game is to put points on the board. Now, Buffalo came out. They scored 7 points on their opening drive, and that was it. They had 5 possessions. Here's how the 5 possessions went for the Bills in the second half. Touchdown, followed by punt, 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 punt. Yes, only 24 total points overall. Now, I realize it's hard to play against Warren Sapp and Rondé Barber and Derek Brooks. And, man, that Bucs defense is really good. Unless it's not. Unless they're all gonzo. The Buccaneers ranked 20th in total defense in the NFL. Certainly didn't look like that in the second half. You might want to text Josh Allen here and friends. Do better, be better. Furthermore, there's an underlying condition here. You've got Kellogg's Rice Krispies who are bird dogging Allen. Snap, crackle, pop. Now, Allen was listed on the injury report with some kind of shoulder ailment, a right shoulder injury. If you saw what I saw, he made a camping trip into the blue medical tent in the second quarter. Now, he came back and he played the rest of the game and all that. But Josh Allen, as big a man as he is, needs to be placed in bubble wrap. And I don't think you can hide out anywhere. There's no bunkers on the field. There's nowhere to hide. And he's one step off the curb from being out all year for Bills Mafia. And the Bills, here's the thing about the Bills. The odd thing, the MVP, if you were to give only one game ball to Buffalo, I would give it to Sam Martin, their idiot punter from Appalachian State, who was a maestro of pinning the Tampa offense back. And even with all of that, the Buccaneers, Chris Godwin, would have, could have, should have caught the Hail Mary on the final play of the game in the end zone as he was untouched. He just didn't turn and look at the ball soon enough, but he could have easily caught the ball. It was just to his right. If he had looked up sooner, he would have caught it, and that would have been one of the great losses in NFL history for the Buffalo Bills, but woulda, coulda, shoulda, it didn't happen. Now, turning the page. All right, the last word here. We're going to head to Pittsburgh for our next headline, where the Pittsburgh Steelers, playing the Jaguars this weekend on what should be a rain-affected day in western Pennsylvania. The forecast calling for rain in that game. Pittsburgh's wide receiver, George Pickens, of all people, popping up on our radar. He raised some eyebrows recently by calling the Jaguars a defense. Well, he gave them a moniker. I think we have the audio on this, so rather than me tell you what George Pickens said about the Jacksonville defense. Oh, I guess we don't have it. Well, I guess we don't have it. Well, anyway, here's the deal. George Pickens called them a hope defense. He called them a hope defense is what he said, where they hope they can essentially imply that where they hope they can make a play. So the question here, will George Pickens, Pittsburgh Steelers, be haunted by him calling out? Trust me, he did. Good audio. Will he be haunted, and the Steelers, be haunted by calling out the Jags' hope defense? So I'm gonna shake my head no on this. Now, this is one of those stories that gets put on the megaphone, and I give the side eye. And here's why. I do believe in truth in broadcasting, and Pickens is not wrong. Now, did he use proper decorum? Probably not. Right? Proper decorum is you're never supposed to point out your opponent's flaws. But here's the thing. What he said, that's a fact, Jack. I mean, you want to go Goodwill Hunting. How do you like them apples? Jacksonville, out of 32 teams defending the pass, is 31st. Now, the Jags have been able to win games here, but they clearly have to figure out what they're doing at stopping the pass because it ain't working. The only team in the NFL, the cartel of football, that's been worse, the Chargers. They're the only ones. So that would make the Jags, if you're 31st out of 32 teams, that would make you the hope defense. You're hoping that somebody makes a play, but I'm not a believer in bulletin board material. If you're somebody that's all into bulletin board material, you're coming to the wrong place. Just like we have debunked momentum year after year, right? Team, they had all the momentum. Oh, boy, all the momentum. It's just bull crap. It's just absolute bull crap. I saw them in baseball. The Philadelphia Phillies had all the momentum. Then the Rangers had all of it. Then they lost in their series. They lost a couple games in Houston, and actually all of them, or in Texas to Houston in their home ballpark. And then the A-holes were going to win, and they had all the momentum. And people just move the needle wherever they want to move the needle. But there's no such thing as momentum, and there's no such thing as bulletin board material, unless you assume the position that Jacksonville was going to go AWOL against the Steelers this weekend. But it's one of those things that's only an issue to Mr. Pickens and the Steelers if Pittsburgh loses. That's the kind of thing that gets brought up. And if their defense plays well, he called them the hope defense, and Jacksonville made Pickens eat his words. But should Pittsburgh win, then that will be forgotten, and people will not bring it up. And that's the way this works.